Okay, so when we were looking at the last slideshow, we had this 95% confidence interval calculated for the hours of sleep the average New Yorker gets per night. And the question asked us to change that to a 99% confidence interval. What would change? In the lecture, we talked about the T star value would change because we're going to have a more area in those two tails, or we're going to have a different amount of area in those two tails. So the first thing I would do is I went back and I looked, and I wanted to know my N, okay, how many people were in the sample size. Because in order for me to get the new T star value, I have to know the degrees of freedom. Remember that degrees of freedom are N minus 1. So looking at that, I know that I have 24 degrees of freedom. I also know that I have a 99% confidence interval, so that's 1% of area in the tail. So I'm going to go back to my chart here, and I'm going to go to the two tail. I'm going to go all the way across. There's 1% in the very last column. 24 degrees of freedom. I'm going to go all the way across. That's 2.80 for the T star value. Okay. Now, when I started calculating this, I kind of wrote down the information that I had, degrees of freedom. I had the two-tail area and the T-star value. Of course, the X bar, the average number of hours of sleep from the sample, was still the same. The only thing that changed in the way I calculated it was I had to replace the T-star from the 95% to a new one with the 99%. We see clearly this is a bigger T-star value, okay, which should make sense to you because this is a higher level of confidence, which means it's going to include more values in the interval, which means the interval has to spread out and get bigger. Okay, so I ended up with 7.73 minus 0.4312 and 7.73 plus 0.4312. That's what we get when we divide this by 5 and then multiply by 2.8. Okay, so when we create that confidence interval, we're 99% sure that the average New Yorker gets from 7.2988 to 8.1612 hours of sleep per night. I'm sorry, we are 99% confident, not 95, because we have changed the confidence interval here. So hopefully that helps in seeing how we made those changes.